now we're going to be turning our attention to the back page of this morning's Telegraph. Guardiola keeps City waiting is the big headline. Pep will reportedly wait until the end of the season to decide whether he will stay at Manchester City. He's got 1 year left on his contract and he's yet to make up his mind on whether he sees it out. The former City manager Stuart Pearce was alongside Andy Goldstein on Drive yesterday. He said that Pep needs to communicate with the club on where his head is at.
If you're the football club, you can't do a great deal about that. The club at this stage, if not before now, have to ask the question of the manager. What is your viewpoint? Because we've been speculating on this radio show, I think, for at least the last 3 years, whether he's going to go. And people send me he's going. Is he going this summer? Did he go last summer? Whatever. I just think you've got to do everything you can as a football club to secure him and his signature. Doesn't mean a great deal. He could sign a longer-term contract if he wanted and still say, you know what, I've had enough.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, I'm going. So the length of contract's irrelevant, but he's earned the right, but also the club have earned the right as well to ask the question of him.
That was Stuart Pearce on Drive yesterday with Andy Goldstein. Listen, it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously the speculation has been rife about Pep since middle of last season, and he's admitted already that he spoke to the FA about possibly taking the England job prior to signing his new contract, not last autumn, but the autumn before. So how much does he owe Manchester City when it comes to discussing his future? Should he be telling them now, or has he earned the right to wait until the summer?
Well, he's weighing up all the situation, whether, he wants to try and go out on a high, have one more season and say, look, I'm going to really push for that Premier League again or Champions League. Look, he has earned the right. I can totally understand what Stuart's saying, but also the club do need to know. They need to put things in place because it is a massive loss. What Pep Guardiola has done for that club. Look, you can argue that he spent so much money and he's brought the best players in, but he's still made players better. He's still got them over the line. He's still been the most successful manager ever for Manchester City. So it'll be a nightmare day when he does leave because you know what he brings to the table. He's always up there. He's always competing. But obviously the club will have to look at that. No managers are ever going to say. It's a little bit like Sir Alex Ferguson when he was at Manchester United. He knew when the right time was to leave. And he made sure he went out on a high. He went out winning the Premier League, and he said, "Well, can I take this club any more forward?" He knew that the team was ageing a little bit, so he made the right decision when he wanted to leave. And I think Pep's going to be in that situation as well. He's going to look.
Pep's not the same sort of age though as Sir Alex was when he decided to come to that decision. So there's obviously another chapter of his life that he will still have to write.
It'd be interesting to see, Sam. What if he did leave? What happens with his life?
Do you think he would go on another sabbatical? Do you remember when he left Barcelona? He was absolutely knackered. I remember being in a press conference actually in the Nou Camp. It was a couple of weeks after he had announced that he was leaving. And then he was still sort of going on, but it was obviously coming to an end. And it was only actually after that game that he decided, I'm just going to go now rather than wait any longer to the end of the season. Because initially he had sort of announced that he was going at the end of the season. And then it sort of snowballed and he ended up having to leave really quickly. And I don't think he wants that to happen again. He was very tired. He was very stressed. He said actually in the build-up to this week, he said after the Carabao Cup final, he needed a rest, he needed a break, he needed a couple of weeks off, he needed to get some sun on his face. He was going to Catalonia to have a bit of a rest so that he was recuperating for the rest of the season. He gives so much. I just wonder whether or not he'll have a bit of a rest now, Ray, and then come back in a couple of years' time, maybe as a national team boss somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's the only man who could answer that question. He's the one who sit down with his family and say, look, as I said before, it's a really 24-hour job. It really is being a manager. You're always thinking, even if you're not involved in a game or you'll be sitting indoors sometimes thinking, right, what players are fit, when is he going to come back, what have we got the weekend? It's just going round in your head all the time. I've never been a manager, but I can imagine it is like that.
Did you ever want to be a manager?
Do you know what? I would love to have a go, but the thing about it is it's a very regimental job, isn't it? And when you're a player, you're told what to do every single day. So when you finish your career, you know, you wake up in the morning and say, well, what am I going to do today? And some players like to be told what to do every day, and they enjoyed that, and they miss it when it doesn't happen anymore. And other players would say, you know, I always say to players now at 30, 31 years old, you got to have what path are you going to go down? Are you going to go down the coaching route? Are you going to go trying to be a manager? Are you going to be trying to get into the media? Are you going to try and get a business doing this and doing that? And that's what you've got to have a plan at 31 when you're still playing. And you know where you're going to go and try and put it in place while you're playing. Because on July the 1st, when you wake up in the morning, Sam, and there's no more contracts and you don't know what to do with yourself, that's when the problems start. Because, you know, you need good people around you to help you. Because, you know, you go into training every day. You see people every day. And then suddenly you're on your own. And you're in a big wild world again, as I say. And that's reality of being life. You know, it all comes to an end sooner or later. Managers are exactly the same. But I think from managers' point of view, it's like a drug, though. Once they get part of it and they get the adrenaline, and it's a little bit like being a player, probably, when you have to go the same emotions when you're winning trophies and you know you've got a good squad of players and you're being successful. You can see fans with smiles on their faces. It must give you a massive buzz. So, you know, to see people like Neil Warnock coming back in, you can see they can't leave it alone.
That's what's amazing.
Martin O'Neill going back to Celtic, and then you've got Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson going back to Bristol City. So, you know, some managers just can't go without it. And whether Pep Guardiola's in that sort of situation, we'll have to wait and see. But, you know, and these guys don't do it for the money. They don't do it for the money. They've earned their money. You know, Pep could never work again in his life if he wants. It's just that having that, you know, I want to do something with my life. I want to win more trophies. I want to be successful. I want to do this. I want to do that. And that's what drives everybody on.
What is Pep going to do next, and how is Pep going to deal with the fact that he's no longer at Manchester City? But I suppose the bigger question really is, what are Manchester City going to do without Pep? You know, because I think the Telegraph article this morning says that they're drawing up contingency plans. I think we all know that the contingency plans include Enzo Maresca, Vincent Kompany, Xabi Alonso, Cesc Fabregas, who's been a success at Como.
Straight away, I say Vincent Kompany. Straight away, just because he knows the club very well. He knows the Manchester people. He knows everything about the club. The fans respect him.
Is he going to leave Bayern Munich to go to Manchester City?
Well, I think that any club he would go to, it would only be Man City. If I'm being honest, that would be his club. He was there for many, many years. He knows the passion. He knows everything about the football club. So for me, that would be the perfect scenario for Man City fans. Anyway, look, I'll be amazed if they was. Look, he went to Burnley and he tried to play out from the back. He didn't have the right players and it didn't work out for him. But he's gone to Bayern Munich and they've been superb because they've got better players and he knows they can deal with that. A little bit like Man City. So I'm sure he wouldn't have no problem walking into Man City. But there's lots of options out there, we know. But I think he would be perfect for it.
03717 2233 44. Manchester City fans, would you be happy with Vincent Kompany replacing Pep? Maybe Enzo Maresca is your man. Maybe you're thinking about someone completely different like Xabi Alonso nipping in quickly before Liverpool pounce.